is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
America, Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, there's lots to jump into this evening, of course. But I want to jump into something that nobody else is likely to jump into because it involves me. And I don't like to do this show about me. But sometimes I just have to. I don't know who Ali Alexander is. I never heard of him. Apparently he's an organizer or the top guy over at something called Stop the Steal. Maybe I'm naive. I didn't know what Stop the Steal was. Well, whatever it is, it is. But I want to play something for you that Mr. Producer found and showed me and played for me, and I thought I'd play it for you. Ali Alexander, cut 17, go.
So anyway, I say all that to say that Merrick Garland is I like who said this? Oh, Mark Levin said this. Mark Levin is at the top of his game. You know, Mark Levin has never been better than he is now. So hats off to him. But I would never buy his book. I wanted to. I thought about it yesterday, but then I was like, this guy's going to piss me off through half the book because Mark Levin is inherently a foreigner. You know, he's Jewish. He's a foreigner in kind of his ethos. So the way he talks about the Democrat Party is a different way than I, a son of the South, a son of Texas, a son of American slavery, a child of American slavery. I would talk about the Democrat Party in a better contextual American way than a foreign person like someone who's Turkish or Jewish or any of the issues or the I.D.s, you know? They just, you know, it's like when people like try to blame slavery on the Democrat Party, it's like, that's not just an un-American argument, it's an inhumane argument. Slavery existed everywhere.
Yes, slavery existed everywhere. But one party embraced it and one party didn't. But that's not my point. I'm not interested in engaging this guy. He's a moron. But I just play this for you folks, just so you know. This never goes away. This never goes away. Yes, I'm Jewish. My grandfather who fought in World War II at Iwo Jima in Guam, he was Jewish. My great-uncle who fought in Guadalcanal, he was Jewish. I can go through all this. I don't have to prove my family's patriotism and love for this country, which is boundless. Boundless. I don't know who this guy is. I don't care that he doesn't buy my book. Who cares? But I'm Jewish, so I'm inherently a foreigner. And that's the argument? And I just wanted to point that out to you. Again, I don't know what Stop the Steal is, a Stop the Steal organizer, a guy that runs Stop the Steal. I do know what he's saying. I'm not a fool. I know what he's saying. He wants to defend the Democrat Party of slavery. Slavery was everywhere. Well, you can explain the context for slavery in the United States. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it should be done. I believe it should be done. There's no defending it. But it's not as if the United States, there it is, the one country that was practicing slavery. They still practice slavery in the Middle East. They still practice slavery in Africa. Great. But what's the point? That I'm Jewish, so I don't know what's going on or how to define these things? Now, most of you in the audience are not, and I understand that. We still love each other. We still respect each other. But I just want people to understand, and I think most of you do, there's no escaping this for me. There's just not. I hear it on the left, and I don't know what this guy is. What political persuasion he claims or he clings to. I'm sure the media will dig it up and say, oh, that's a Trump guy. Donald Trump and I get along magnificently. And he's Jewish daughter, Jewish son-in-law, Jewish grandkid. Can't say the same thing for Biden, by the way, or Obama. But again, the point is, it doesn't matter what I say, doesn't matter what I write, doesn't matter who I am. When people do something like this, they attempt to dehumanize you. Oh, he's a foreigner, he's Jewish. I'm not a foreigner. I'm an American. And I'll always be an American. Now, all of us, our ancestors come from somewhere. 500 years ago, America wasn't filled with people who have ancestry from Europe. 600 years ago. In fact, many of the people who claim to be indigenous in this country, and I would argue are, even their ancestors, many of them weren't here. John Locke wrote about America over 500 years ago, about his philosophy, which served as the basis for the Declaration of Independence and our Revolutionary War. And some of his detractors in Europe said, this place that you talk about, or these theories that you talk about, and this, remember, was the philosopher had the most influence over our Revolutionary War, and whose arguments were borrowed by many when they wrote their various, with the National Declaration of Independence, the various state declarations of independence. It was Locke who they focused on. And they said, where is this place where your ideas even exist? He said, America. Why America? America is a clean slate. Europe is not. Asia is not. The Middle East is not. But America, yes. The civil society, the social contract that he wrote about, it's America. This fledgling little place in North America. There were no colonies back then. Certainly no states. What we call the United States today was barely populated. So this guy appears to me to be an African American, Mr. Producer. Does he not to you in the audio? So he says, the way I talk about the Democrat Party is a different way than I, a son of the South. Son of the South? Was the South separate and apart from the rest of the continent? And when did that start? A son of Texas. A son of American slavery, a child of American slavery. I would talk about the Democrat Party in a better contextual American way than a foreign person. Someone who's Turkish or Jewish. This guy's a pig. He's a bastard. Nothing I say, nothing I care to say, is intended to persuade him of anything. The idea that I'm not going to read the book because he's Jewish, because he doesn't really understand the Democrat Party. Oh, I understand it better than most, trust me. And those 65 pages of notes and endnotes, the people who are cited, the philosophers, the historians, the people who experienced what the Democrat Party did to them, things that they wrote, things that they said, were they all Jewish too? No, the vast majority of people who are cited in the notes were not Jewish. I thought I'd just point that out to you. Ali Alexander. You never heard of him before? I hadn't either. Now hopefully millions and millions of people know who Ali Alexander is. Just another Jew hater. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text date and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com. Joe Biden thinks the border's doing great. Hakeem Jeffries thinks the border's great. The Democrats are kind of split on this, but the national Democrats are praising what's taking place in the border. Now, the Democrats who run cities that are really affected by this are very unhappy. But the national Democrats don't give a damn about that, and they're the ones setting border policy. It's just like Biden and his mouthpieces in Washington, D.C., telling you that the economy's doing great. Bidenomics, it's working. When most Americans are struggling with basics. With basics. Americans aren't supposed to be struggling with basics. That's not due to capitalism. That's not due to entrepreneurship. That's due to the Democrat Party and their policies. And you ain't seen nothing yet as they nationalize more and more areas, millions of acres, off limits to productivity and development, that is, drilling. Drilling, as they continue to bring these Democrat Party sanctioned and funded lawsuits against oil developing companies to try and put them out of business. And replace them with what? You look at this border. So what are they going to do with the border? Tighten it up? Not a chance. Breitbart report, Joe Biden's DHS plans photo ID cards for illegal aliens freed into the United States. Photo ID cards. Leaked images of the photo ID cards for illegal aliens were first published by Adam Shaw at Fox News, showing space for the carrier's photo, a QR code, and information about the carrier, including name and age, similar to a driver's license or a state-issued ID. Now, in a lot of states, that's all you need is an ID. So you're going to have a federal government-issued ID from the Department of Homeland Security with the QR codes, with a photo, and all the rest. And these people are going to vote. They're going to vote. All we need is an identification. Some places, utility bills, some Social Security, whatever. Well, look at this. I have an official federal government, DHS issued card. And you're not allowed to question whether I'm a citizen or not. That's discrimination. In many states, this is the case. And you better believe that the Civil Rights Division, under Meritless Garland, the mob lawyer attorney general, and the Civil Rights Division headed by a racist, you better damn well believe that they're going to defend that. As I've said many times before, it's not an issue of more people voting. It's an issue of more people voting who have the right to vote. ID cards issued by the Department of Homeland Security. They could be used by the TSA at airports or to access public benefits. So citizenship is being destroyed. Absolutely being destroyed. You know, our representatives are supposed to represent the citizenry. People don't get to come to the country and on their own accord become citizens or quasi-citizens, if you will, because they happen to make it across a border that's so porous at the behest of the administration. This is why I keep trying to explain to Republicans on Capitol Hill via this platform and the TV platform, this is the biggest impeachable offense there is. The purposeful destruction of our country, citizenship, law and order, fentanyl and other mass-killing drugs, the inhumanity that's going on both sides of the border. This is intentional. This is Democrat Party, Joe Biden regime made. This is an impeachable offense. This is exactly what the framers of the Constitution intended by an impeachable offense. This is a high crime. It's a high crime against the civil society. Intentionally so, by a rogue president and a rogue regime. I'll be back. Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text data and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Governor Ron DeSantis, how are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, too, sir. I'm going to ask you a question, by the way. I watch this on some of my favorite shows and some shows that are hosted by reprobates, and I've noticed that a part of the media keeps rooting for Vivek Ramaswamy or Nikki Haley to overtake you in the polls. Isn't that weird? And why are they rooting against you, do you think?
Well, they've been rooting against me for a long time. I mean, as a governor, I've been the number one target of any governor in the country, particularly starting with COVID when I was bucking Fauci and bucking the trend. And then once we won the re-election by such a big margin, they really had a target on my back. I think it's because, one, they know that I beat Joe Biden, but I think much more importantly, they've seen me actually execute on this agenda. We're so used to people running for office, making big promises, and then not following through on what they said they would do. With me, everything I said I would do as governor, I have delivered. And these are big wins on illegal immigration, on education, on economy, on reducing our debt, on and on down the line, things that really matter to Floridians and to conservatives nationally because we've led the way. So they look at me as somebody who, in the two-term presidency, I have the strategic judgment, I have the discipline to be able to bring all this stuff in for a landing, and they do not want to see that. They are invested in continuing in the status quo. They don't want somebody that's going to come in and actually get the job done. So they've been really targeting me for many years, but certainly in this last year, that's been their consistent thing. But at the end of the day, our folks know what the media does. They know that this is kind of how they play their games. And anybody that they're targeting, I think our voters look at that and say, well, gee, that guy must be doing something right. If the media is after him, he must be getting the job done.
I notice you run on your record. You don't run from it. You're very proud of it. You've accomplished a great deal in 6 years as governor. And I'm not trying to create a controversy of any kind, but I also noticed that Nikki Haley, who was a governor for 8 years, does not run on her record. Am I missing something?
No, I mean, I don't know really necessarily what the record would be. I think clearly with what we've done in Florida, we came in, had a big agenda, executed it. I mean, illegal immigration. We did ban sanctuary cities. We did E-Verify. We've sent people to the border to help Texas. We've cracked down on sex trafficking, human smuggling. I have boats in off our coast, interdicting boats coming in from Haiti with illegal aliens. We transported 50 illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard. And so we've been leaning in on that issue, which is one of the most important issues facing our country with all the nonsense that's going on down there now. And so that'll be a day one issue for me as president. You look at education. We got the indoctrination out of the schools. No gender ideology, no critical race theory. We have universal school choice. These are things that are really significant and that have led the nation. And so we've not been a caretaker governor. We've actually leaned in on some of these issues. And, all these Republicans, I think every single Republican who's running has criticized me for taking the fight to Disney regarding the gender ideology in the elementary schools. I mean, we had a situation in Florida where we said, and I'm a father of a 6'5" and a 3-year-old, so this is something that's sensitive to me and my wife, and we have a lot of sympathy for other parents out there who are raising kids in an environment where the left wants to shove their agenda down their kids' throats, and we think that that's wrong. So we said in Florida, no anything about the sex or gender ideology in schools, particularly for these younger grades. Disney fought us. We got it enacted, but then they came and tried to get the bill repealed. They were threatening to sue over it. And so we fought back against them. I mean, we got to draw on the line in the sand with respect to these kids and make sure that parents know we're going to be there. And I know Nikki Haley has taken the side of Disney. I know Donald Trump took the side of Disney. Mike Pence, all these candidates have taken the side of Disney. That's corporatism. Market economics is not just bowing down to woke corporations. when they're trying to change our society or change our laws, particularly with relating to children, not only do we have a right to fight back, we have a duty to fight back. And so I think that how I handled that is different than how some of those other people would have handled it.
And what did Bob Iger say today or yesterday at one of these corporate events that they hold? He said, we're going to tamp down on the culture wars. Did you know that, Governor? So basically, you've won.
Yeah, look, I think it's just they have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders to try to maximize the company's value. And they had a brand that had been very positive for many decades, and it was really a family-friendly brand. And I think them getting into this issue, not just what they did in Florida, but also what they've injected into some of their programming, some of the things that we see, that has hurt the company. There's just no question about it. So I think what we did ultimately was provide probably a positive corrective for them. Hopefully they can get back on a better path and not go down this road. It's also ironic, Mark, of any elected official in the country. I've probably helped them make more money than anyone because they were open in Florida during COVID. The California had them closed. I think they were closed for like a year and a half out in California. In Florida, we encouraged them to be open, and they took their time. They could have done it even earlier. We wanted them to do it early. But they made a lot of money in Florida because we have a good environment to be able to do business. CNBC, which is not a fan of mine, they just rated Florida the number one economy of all 50 states. And, of course, we've led the nation in net in-migration. We've led the nation in economic growth amongst large states, and our unemployment rate is incredibly low. So we are doing it right. And I think, in their heart of hearts, they know Florida's a good state to do business in. They may not have their special privileges anymore, but it's still a doggone good place to do business.
No income tax in Florida. It's a prospering state. Tell us about school choice in Florida, because I noticed that these candidates on the stage like to talk about it, but most of them haven't done a damn thing about it.
No, exactly. And so we have universal school choice now. So parents, it's not just so our school choice understandably started out targeting low-income families, a lot of single moms, and that's great. But our view is that the dollar should follow the student, and it should be about funding the students rather than funding the systems. So we now have it expanded, and that's important because, Mark, I mean, you've got a foothold in South Florida. You had families that are working hard. They have 2 or 3 kids. You could be making $100,000 a year in South Florida. It isn't like you're high on the hog there. It isn't like you have just unlimited money to be affording tuition. So to be able to have the money follow your student, where you can direct that to a private school, you could go to a charter school. A lot of times there's school choice within school districts too. You could do that. That's a huge, huge boon for parents. It's also a big boon for parents that want religious education. We've got a lot of parochial schools, a lot of Catholic schools. We have Jewish day schools. We've got, Protestant Christian schools. And a lot of parents really want that component, and we want to be able to help deliver all the options to them. So people say, oh, well, if you do that, it's going to be bad for the traditional school systems. All I can tell you in Florida is we've never scored better on these tests than we're doing now as a full-blown school choice state. In the most recent Nation's Report Card, we were 3rd and 4th, respectively, in 4th grade reading and 4th grade math nationwide. That was not the case when I was growing up in Florida. And so what it does is it empowers the parents, it's good for the students, but it also causes the other schools to up their game because they got to compete for students instead of just having a monopoly over students.
Let's talk about energy if we can, Governor. Joe Biden and his administration are destroying the energy sector. They're backing these radical left-wing groups that are bringing lawsuits against energy-producing companies to try and steal their resources, their capital, the R&D money, use it like they did with the cigarette companies, although I don't know what happened to that money, but it would be gobbled up and devoured by the government and redistributed to some left-wing cause. They're also nationalizing millions of acres of land and then claiming that they are not to be developed. That is, you can't drill on them and so forth. We're going to reach a choke point, where we're not able to produce what's needed in this country to run our industrial heartland. for people to warm their homes or cool their homes, to run our automobiles and so forth and so on. This is the plan. This is what they're doing, trying to push people into EVs. This is a disaster for this country, these ideological nincompoops. Do you have a plan to counter this?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So we were in Midland, Texas, out in West Texas yesterday. We unveiled our plan for American energy dominance. Yes, we don't want to be relying on foreign countries, and so independent from that. But even beyond that, we want to be the dominant energy producer in the entire world. That's important, one, to get prices down at the pump for Americans. Two, it helps the economy overall because energy costs impact all prices. So it's relief from inflation, helps small businesses, it helps our industrial base. But maybe most important all, it helps our national security. Biden's anti-energy agenda benefits Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and China. I mean, just think about his push to force people to do electric vehicles. Where does the minerals and the things that they mine, where does that come from to go into the batteries and whatnot? Most of it comes from China. And so it makes Americans more reliant on China. It will totally decimate our automobile industry here at home. We have these minerals. We have reserves. And Biden takes that out of circulation, so you can't actually mine in the United States. And so he's making our country way, way more vulnerable as a result of this. And here's the thing, it will not work. If you want to reduce carbon emissions, which he claims is the most important thing, you should be embracing things like natural gas. I mean, that's the reason why U.S. emissions have gone down, because more power plants use natural gas instead of coal. Natural gas is a lot cheaper. You have the developing world that is very energy poor. What Biden is saying is somehow they're not going to be able to advance their societies, because if you have abundant energy in some of those countries, it will lift a billion people out of poverty over the next generation. And so I think we should be exporting our natural gas to all these places. Give it to Europe so that they don't have to worry about any hostile countries. We've got to choose Midland over Moscow when it comes to energy. We've got to choose the Marcellus over the mullahs, and we've got to choose Bakken over Beijing. If we do all of that, the average American is going to do much better in their pocketbook, but our country is going to be way more secure as a result.
Governor, the GAO, the OMB, the CBO, they put out a joint report in May. They said federal spending is, and I use their word, unsustainable. That's the federal numbers pushers. Each branch of the government, except the judiciary, of course. But they said it's unsustainable. And that was about last year when they said the deficit was the greatest in American history in 2022. Well, it's doubled now in 2023. And Schumer is blowing off the caps that they negotiated in May. The Senate Republicans, most of them, are going along with Schumer. You have House Republicans who are trying to fight this, trying to come up with some ideas, including an 8% cut in domestic spending, start securing the border, and so forth. And I hear, general statements from some of the candidates saying we can't do this anymore and we can't do this anymore. They never tell us what it is that they're going to do. What do you think?
Well, look, if you look at the problem we've had with the explosion of debt, it's rooted back into the COVID response, where they did trillions and trillions of dollars, and both parties supported this over the last 3-4 years. And that's bad, and that shouldn't have happened. And I think the whole response, looking back, should have never done that. I think most people acknowledge that at this point. Clearly in Florida, we fought back against that very early on. But the problem is they've locked in those levels of spending effectively that were justified because of the quote COVID emergency. You got to go all the way back, set all those spending levels back to what it was prior to that, 2017, 18, 19 levels, and then you got to hold the line there. If you did that, you would save a lot of money over a 10-year period. That should be the bare minimum to be able to do. Mark, in Florida, we have our cost per capita for our state workers is the lowest in America. The number of state workers we have per capita is the lowest in America. And yet, when people move from New York or New Jersey or Illinois, they say Florida's got great services. They're able to get their driver's license. They'll be able to do this. They'd be able to do that. They've got no problem with the services. They're grateful for the services and the infrastructure. So this government is so much bigger than anything that could be justified, that I think that they should think big, and I think that they should do that. What Schumer and these guys, they have no regard for the next generation. A lot of Republicans, the old guard Republicans, have joined with the Democrats, and so this is a bipartisan problem. Ultimately, I do think we need structural reform, things like a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, because, Mark, you and I could get the budget in great shape. We could change the trajectory and maybe have an agreement, let's say. But then there'll be another election 2 or 4 years later, and guess what? The new Congress people come in, and they undo it. And that's been the problem with all these budget deals that have happened really since the 80s. You put these caps in, you turn around, and then they violate it, the next year.
Governor, if people want to learn more about your campaign or get involved, where do they go?
Our website is www.rondesantis.com, rondesantis.com. You can also text the word freedom to 512345. Freedom to 512345. We appreciate everybody's support. We will turn this country around, and we will not let you down.
All right, Governor, my best to you and your bride and the family there. God bless you, sir.
All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Have you been waiting to buy gold as an investment? Lots of commercials out there, but who can you really trust? I didn't want to make a bad investment, but didn't want to miss the boat either. Sound familiar? Fortunately, I've got great news. If you have an IRA or 401k and want to buy physical gold to diversify your investment, eliminate fear and uncertainty from the process, get the new Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist. It helps you evaluate and choose the best gold IRA company. To get your free IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. That's Levin to 68592. Now, I trust Augusta Precious Metals and invested myself. Use this checklist to choose the best gold IRA company for yourself and see if you agree. To get your free Gold IRA Company Integrity Checklist today, text Levin to 68592. Again, text Levin to 68592. Text date and message rates may apply. Performance varies. Consult your financial professionals before making investment decisions and get risk disclosures at AugustaPreciousMetals.com. By the way, it turns out this Ali Alexander, for all his talk about his roots in the South in the United States, according to our research, he was born in the United Arab Emirates. That would explain the anti-Semitism, wouldn't it? So he's born in the UAE, Ali Alexander, as best as we can determine. And Ali Alexander is not his real name. What is his real name? Raleigh Abdul Rast Abdar? Akbar? Was it a cartoon? Ali Abdul... what? Ali Abdul Rast Abdar, who changes his name, I guess, to Ali Alexander? Claims all these ties to the South and the Democrat Party and slavery in the South, and he was born in the United Arab Emirates. Well, there you go. And yet he's given all this attention. It's amazing. What a punk. All right, here. By the way, I thought that was a great interview with Ron DeSantis. Really did. I thought he laid out his agenda quite clearly on energy, on spending. And he talks about his 6 years as governor. This is what I mean. We have governors. The best that Chris Christie can do is say, I beat a Democrat who was having severe ethics issues and moral issues that I think even Asa Hutchinson could have beat that Democrat. And then we have people keep talking about what they're going to do. Well, that's all well and good. But first of all, I want to know what they have done. You were governor for 8 years in South Carolina. This isn't personal with me. Can't you at least give us 10 minutes? 5 great things that you did? I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America, or what's left of it. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let me just read these headlines to you and then get to the bigger point. So in Breitbart, Biden grants quasi-amnesty to 470,000 more Venezuelan migrants. Just snaps his fingers. Temporary protected status. We'll add one worker for every 9 Americans who will begin to seek jobs this year. In combination with Biden's massive inflow of legal and illegal immigrants, the temporary amnesty will further force wages for Americans down after 3 years of shrinking wages, and, of course, all the other problems that come with that. So that's one thing. Then, as I was mentioning earlier, Joe Biden's DHS plans photo ID cards for illegal aliens freed into the United States. Now, why would they give them those? Just so they have pictures of themselves on little government cards and can stick them in their wallet? No. So they can use them to travel freely around the United States. Excuse me. And yes, even to vote. Yes, even to vote. All the security measures, all the barriers intended to prevent illegal voting are all one by one being destroyed. And then we have a guy like this Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania. We're told he's a moderate. He's the future of the Democrat Party. Josh Shapiro announced Tuesday, which is National Voter Registration Day, that the state will now automatically register residents to vote while getting their driver's license or their state ID. State ID? He says, I made a commitment when I was campaigning for this office that we would bring automatic voter registration to Pennsylvania, break down the barriers for legal eligible voters. He didn't do this with legislation. He didn't get a vote out of the legislature. Pennsylvania Department of State spokesperson told ABC News that people who are not eligible to vote will not be presented with a voter registration screen during any of the DMV processes. Oh, okay, so DMV will be the first line of defense, Mr. Producer. I'm sure that'll work just perfectly well. So what's going on? I have an entire chapter on the war on the American citizen. The Democrat Party hates America. I just heard a host say that liberals hate America. They're getting close. Britannica defines citizenship as, in part, the relationship between an individual and a state, to which the individual owes allegiance, and in turn is entitled to its protection. They say citizenship implies the status of freedom with accompanying responsibilities. Citizens have certain rights, duties, and responsibilities that are denied or only partially extended to aliens and other non-citizens residing in a country. In general, full political rights, including the right to vote and to hold public office, are predicated upon citizenship. The usual responsibilities of citizenship are allegiance, taxation, military service. Citizenship is the most privileged form of nationality. That's Britannica. So the purpose of citizenship, I write, is to unite people around common values, belief systems, principles. That is, a dominant culture. The American culture. Otherwise, a nation simply cannot function and ultimately will fail. Unfortunately, the ruling class, led by the Democrat Party, the media, academia, and the administrative state, do not share the public's belief in either the necessity of citizenship or the well-being of our country, America. The late Harvard professor Samuel P. Huntington, writing in his book, Who Are We? The Challenges to America's National Identity, observed, and I quote, "The views of the public on issues of national identity differ significantly from those of many elites. These differences, and he wrote this in 2008, these differences reflect the underlying contrast between high levels of national pride and commitment to the nation on the part of the public and the extent to which elites have denationalized in favor of transnational and subnation identities. The public overall is concerned with Social Security, not the program, the fact of Social Security, which involves the sustainability within acceptable conditions for evolution of traditional patterns of language, culture, association, and religious and national identity and custom. But for many elites, these concerns are secondary in the global economy, supporting international trade and migration, strengthening international institutions, promoting American involvement abroad, and encouraging minority identities and cultures. This was a Harvard professor. I point out the divide between the public and the ruling class, explains Huntington, is broad and getting broader. He wrote, the differences between a patriotic public and a denationalized elite, writes Huntington, parallel other differences in values and philosophy. Growing differences between the leaders of major institutions and the public on domestic and foreign policy issues affecting national identity form a major cultural fault line cutting across class, racial, regional, and ethnic distinctions. In a variety of ways, the American establishment, governmental and private, has become increasingly divorced from the American people. And politically, America remains a democracy because key public officials are selected through free and fair elections. But in many respects, it has become an unrepresentative democracy because on crucial issues, especially involving national identity, its leaders pass laws and implement policies contrary to the views of the American people. Concomitantly, he writes, the American people have become increasingly alienated from politics and government. And I add, yet today Biden and his party are overseeing and instituting the greatest degradation of our immigration laws and system in American history. The unstated purpose is to allow as many aliens as possible to freely enter the United States virtually at will in the face of broad public opposition. And the result is mass migration from all over the world into the country without regard for who the aliens are and whether they are willing or capable of assimilating into American society. As I wrote in Liberty and Tyranny, no society can withstand the unconstitutional mass migration of aliens from every corner of the earth. The preservation of the nation's territorial sovereignty and the culture, the language, mores, traditions, and customs that make possible a harmonious community of citizens dictate that citizenship be granted only by the consent of the government, not by unilateral actions or demands of the alien, and that only to aliens who will throw off their allegiance to their former nation and society and pledge their allegiance to America. That's Liberty and Tyranny, which was written, good Lord, Mr. Producer, 20 years ago, give or take? Claremont Institute senior fellow and California State University professor Edward Erler, reflecting Aristotle's observation, writes, a radical change in the character of the citizens will be tantamount to a regime change, just as surely as a revolution in political principles. And of course, that's exactly the objective of the Democrat Party. And regime change it is, I write, as reported by Fox News, President-elect Joe Biden, during the Obama administration, said the U.S. benefits from a constant and unrelenting, and I'm quoting, stream of immigration, and that those with white European heritage becoming a minority in the U.S. is a source of our strength. Speaking at a White House summit on violent extremism in 2015, Biden said in part, folks like me who are Caucasian, of European descent, for the first time in 2017, we will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority, he says. Fewer than 50% of the people in America from then on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength, he says. I'm just reading to you what the racist said. Biden made similar comments a year earlier, where he spoke to the National Association of Manufacturers on the need for immigration reform, quote, from a purely economic point of view. According to The Hill, which reported on the comments, Biden said a key to U.S. economic strength is, quote, constant, unrelenting stream of immigrants into the country, not dribbling, significant flows, quote, unquote. More on Biden's egregious immigration policy shortly, I write in the book. But to be clear, the purpose of immigration is not to change the racial or ethnic makeup of the citizens you represent, but to ensure that the citizens you represent are the foremost benefactors of immigration policies. That's how John Adams saw it. That's how Jefferson saw it. That's how Hamilton saw it. That's how all the founders of the country saw it. America's founding fathers believed the purpose of immigration is to benefit the existing citizenry in society, not the interests of aliens who wish to come to the United States. After all, the representatives of the people are supposed to represent the people. That is the point of representative government, not championing the interest of foreign nationals. But for the Democrat Party, as Biden essentially declared, the purpose of immigration is the fundamental transformation of America, or more specifically, the citizenry. For Biden, the only issue that matters is the racial makeup of immigrants and the speed by which their policies will change the existing majority-minority racial demographics. That's what he said. For the Democrat Party, immigration is also viewed as another opportunity for fundamentally transforming American society and culture. It sees new immigrants as blank slates, unattached to the nation's founding principles and history, the capitalist system, and America's culture. It believes new immigrants can be more easily indoctrinated, manipulated, and persuaded by the party's advocacy of civil rights Marxism and political authoritarianism. And of course, the Democrat Party is convinced that its domination of the media, entertainment, and academia, plus its racist and segregationist propaganda, will appeal to new immigrants more effectively than the homegrown U.S. citizens. This is primarily why Biden, the Democrat Party, and the American Marxists insist on open borders and have no intention of reversing course. Importantly, this view is not shared by most immigrants, many of whom escaped Marxist tyranny and totalitarian regimes, economic destitution, and joblessness, resulting from socialist economies, government-controlled propaganda, brainwashing, and so forth and so on. Most are not drawn to the United States to become Democrat Party voters or to relive the horrors of autocracy promised by the American Marxists. Indeed, most immigrants seek what most Americans celebrate about their country: freedom. Even so, no country, past or present, can withstand unlimited numbers of foreigners pouring into its neighborhoods. For reasons explained earlier by the founders and many more, where immigration is not used for political and ideological purposes, unrestricted immigration is simply unsustainable. The costs are unbearable, given the enormous size of our welfare state, and it's difficult, if not impossible, to segregate the criminals and would-be criminals from millions of others crossing the border. And today, assimilation is much more difficult challenge than in the past because the American culture itself is being eradicated from within by the various American Marxist movements and the Democrat Party, and I go on and on and on. Importantly so. But there's two more paragraphs I want to hit that are very, very important. This is from the Democrat Party Hates America. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, you know a company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and now 50% more 5G data, plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. I get very, very excited about sharing information with you. I just do. I dig up information from different scholars and experts, different observers from different times in our history. And I just get very excited about sharing it with you, whether it's writing in the book or reading from the book. I hope you get excited hearing about it too, knowing what's out there, knowing what's taking place. It's good to know that there are people out there who've warned about it, who've written about it, who've spoken about it, and that it's not us. It's the people who are doing this to us. I'll be leaving Virginia tomorrow early, heading to New Jersey for the book signing at Bookends on Saturday. We've moved the time up, 9:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m. Rain or shine, I will be there at 9:30 a.m. to greet you, to sign your books. It's a fairly substantial building. It's 2 floors, so even if it's pouring, there should be plenty of room for everybody to be inside. It's not going to stop me. I will hope to see you there. I don't even know if it's going to rain, but I'm looking at the weather. Don't let it scare you. You're not going to melt. I promise you're not going to melt. That's Bookends, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And then the next day, Sunday, 1 p.m., will be at Barnes & Noble, Tyson's Corner Mall in McLean, Virginia, 1 p.m., to see the folks there as well. So we're going to have a busy weekend, an exciting weekend. We're the only ones, you and I, who can make a book signing exciting, but we managed to do it, don't we, Mr. Producer? This is the primary way people get out from under debt. This is the primary way they're able to muscle through an economy like this. American financing will walk you through this. There's no magic wand, but there is a strategy, and it works. How much time do I have left, Mr. Producer? In a minute and a half. I'm going to start again because I'm very excited about sharing this with you. And then I'll continue after the bottom of the hour, and then we'll move on. All of this is in The Democrat Party Hates America. In 1998, the late Harvard professor Arthur M. Schlesinger, Jr., a renowned Democrat Party activist, scholar, and traditional liberal, who was an advisor to Democratic presidential candidate Adlai Stevenson and President John Kennedy. He wrote a book titled, ready for this? The Disunity of America, Reflections on a Multicultural Society. I'd never heard of this book. But a gentleman that used to live right next to us, he and his wife, here in Virginia, an older guy, just this wonderful, wonderful man, he handed me the book once. He said, have you ever read this? I said, I didn't even know it existed. He said, you might want to read this book. So I did. Now stick with us. This information relates to every damn thing that's going on the border and the interior of the country now as a result of what's going on in these. They're not even immigration policies. Invasion policies. I'll be right back. Now, you know a company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk text and now 50% more 5G data plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today.
Mark Levin, an unapologetic patriot and unapologetic constitutionalist. You can reach him at 877-381-3811.
Where was I, Mr. Producer? Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. You're the best audience of audiences, the most intelligent audience of audiences. I do things that most hosts don't do. They do their thing. That's perfectly fine. Now I'm doing my thing. So Arthur Schlesinger Jr. was a renowned liberal, old-style liberal. So was his father, big-time Democrat. He advised the candidacy of Adlai Stevenson. He was very close to John Kennedy. And here he is at Harvard, a professor at Harvard, and he doesn't like what he's seeing. And he writes this 25 years ago. He says, the ethnicity rage in general and Afrocentricity in particular not only divert attention from the real needs, but exacerbate the problems. The recent hypothesis of ethnicity, black, brown, red, yellow, white, has revived the dismal prospect that in melting pot days, Americans thought the Republic was moving safely beyond. That is, a society fragmented into separate ethnic communities. The cult of ethnicity exaggerates differences, intensifies resentments and antagonisms, drives deeper and awful wedges between races and nationalities. The end game is self-pity and self-ghettoization. But, of course, this is the goal now of the Democrat Party and their media and their Marxist professors. Schlesinger makes the point that for generations, blacks have grown up in an American culture of which they have had significant influence and to which they have made significant contributions. Self-Africanization after 300 years in America is play acting. Afrocentricity, he's writing, as expanded by ethnic ideologues, implies Europhobia, separatism, emotions of alienation, victimization, paranoia. Most curious and unexpected of all is a black demand for the return of black-white segregation. My God, was he on point. Schlesinger laments that, quote, the revival of separation will begin if the black educator Felix Boateng has his way in the earliest grades. The use of standard English as the only language of instruction, he argues, that is Boateng, aggravates the process of deculturalization. In other words, you need to deculturalize people so they're not assimilating into the United States and they hate their country. He wrote a culturally relevant curriculum for minority children would recognize the home and community dialect they bring to school. So, of course, Schlesinger notes, not all black educators share Boateng's view, but these days many educators of all races and ethnicities do. Indeed, critical race theory and other racist theories are taught throughout our public school systems, from elementary and secondary schools to colleges and universities. If an educational institution should bring people together as individuals in friendly and civic association, declares Schlesinger, it should be the university. But the fragmentation of campuses in recent years into a multitude of ethnic organizations is spectacular and disconcerting. Schlesinger also warned America has so long seen itself as the asylum for the oppressed and persecuted and has done itself and the world so much good thereby that any curtailment of immigration offends something in the American soul. No one wants to be a know-nothing. Yet uncontrolled immigration is an impossibility. So the criteria of control are questions the American democracy must confront. We have shifted the basis of admission 3 times in this country, from national origins in 1924 to family reunification in 1965 to needed skills in 1990. Well, by God, if you were alive today, you would learn that we have no conditions whatsoever. Just come through. What do you think he'd think about that? Says the future of immigration policy depends on the capacity of the assimilation process. We don't have an assimilation process anymore. We have a de-assimilation process to continue to do what it has done so well in the past, to lead newcomers to an acceptance of the language, the institutions, and the political ideals that hold the nation together. These people have nothing to assimilate into, because if they go into our schools or they listen to the Democrats and the media, they are never going to assimilate into our culture, into our country, into our laws. They're all under attack. Of course, none of that is happening today, I write. Indeed, Biden and the Democrat Party are undermining virtually every law and regulation to achieve lawlessness on our borders, the likes of which America has never experienced. The purpose of immigration is no longer to strengthen and improve the society, but to overrun and devour it. Indeed, the language, the institutions, and political ideals of our country are under assault and unraveling from within. This is all purposeful. Who's doing it? The party that hates America. Back to Samuel Huntington, professor, explains that in 1900, the answer was clear. Assimilation meant Americanization. In 2000, the answers were complicated, contradictory, and ambiguous. Many elite Americans were no longer confident of the virtue of their mainstream culture and instead preached a doctrine of diversity and the equal validity of all cultures in America. Immigrants do not enter a society that assumes an undifferentiated monolithic culture, Mary Waters, sociologist, Harvard professor, observed in 1994, but rather a consciously pluralistic society in which a variety of subcultures and racial and ethnic identities coexist. So Huntington says, to the extent that America has become multicultural, immigrants may choose among the subcultures they encounter or choose to maintain their own original culture. They may assimilate into American society without assimilating the core American culture. Assimilation and Americanization are no longer identical. What these men are talking about and writing about is the dissolution of America by immigration. That's what they're saying. And I write, of course, in the past, the public schools would have been expected to teach real American history, government, values, and traditions to immigrant children. Not anymore. Huntington writes, historically, the public schools were central. The promotion of national identity in the late 20th century, in the contrast, schools promoted diversity rather than unity and made little effort to inculcate immigrants in American culture, traditions, customs, and beliefs. In a society that values ethnic and racial diversity, immigrants have powerful incentives to maintain and to reaffirm their own ancestral identity. And I say, in fact, it's much worse in public schools today than when Huntington wrote his book in 2004. Democrat Party ideological agendas are now rampant throughout school systems and imposed on school children. CRT, climate change, LGBTQ+, transgenderism, and mostly anti-Americanism. Mostly anti-Americanism. Now, I could go on. It is absolutely, I think, compelling as hell. Well, I wrote it, but I still think it is. Every syllable, word, sentence, paragraph, page, chapter of this book relates to what's taking place today, but provides a deeply important and heavily substantive platform, a base from which to understand it and understand who's responsible for it. And as Thomas Lifson said of the American Thinker in his review, unsolicited review, as he said, I was a Democrat most of my life, but then I realized I was wrong. Now, having read Mark's book, he writes, now I'm ashamed. We're in a battle of ideas as well as a battle on every other cultural front, but we've got to win the battle of ideas. When you sit at the kitchen table or the Thanksgiving table, when you have a friendly discussion with couples you might go out with to a restaurant, or a discussion with your children, some of whom have already been brainwashed, tell them to read the book. Talk about the book. People need to be re-educated as to the truth and the facts. We've had 150 years of propaganda, indoctrination, repetition, brainwashing. And that border today is an inhumane disaster, and it's that way intentionally. And Joe Biden doesn't even talk about it. And his spokesman today cut off Peter Doocy and anybody else who wanted to confront her about it. And then they blame the Republicans. They blame Trump. Are you not sick of this? The country's transforming before your eyes. What's taught to our children are losing their ability to be educated by what they are being taught instead. We're losing our industries. We're losing our economic system. We're losing our wealth. All these things that were developed and advanced are all being undone through a degrowth movement dressed up as a climate change movement. The war on capitalism with lawsuits and regulations. The entire American experiment is being destroyed. The spending, the border, the indoctrination. The Democrat Party hates America, and we all need to be saying that. The Democrat Party hates America. It has a funny way of showing that it loves America, because it doesn't. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, you know a company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it? This is great news, and for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and is including a mobile hotspot with each one, with no price increase whatsoever. Now, if you've considered Pure Talk before but haven't pulled the trigger, take a look again. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and now 50% more 5G data, plus mobile hotspot. Just $20 a month, folks. This is why I love Pure Talk, that also happens to be veteran-owned and only hires the best customer service team right here in America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Dial pound 250 and say Mark Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250, say Mark Levin, and make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. United Arab Emirates, huh, Mr. Producer? Ali Oxenfree? You know, these guys think I'm a little guy wearing spectacles, afraid of them, will hide and turn and run. It's not how I roll, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a big boy. I have a lot of capabilities. And maybe one day I'll get to meet Ali Oxenfree from... Where's he from again? United Arab Emirates? Enough said. I better not say anything else. Hakeem Jeffries is the speaker in waiting, ladies and gentlemen. He will be the first African-American speaker in American history if he becomes the speaker. He will also be the first defender of one of the most anti-Semitic scumballs on the face of the earth, his uncle. But that won't be mentioned. He's in the book, too. Here's Hakeem Jeffries at a press conference today about the border. And let's see what words of wisdom he has, America. Cut one, go.
I think the Biden administration is doing all that it can in that they inherited a broken system that needs to be fixed moving forward in a bipartisan way through comprehensive immigration reform and leaning in to strengthening the border in a manner consistent with our values, both as a nation of immigrants and as a nation anchored in the rule of law.
Okay, so he says absolutely nothing. He covers for Biden. The Democrat Party takes no responsibility for the hell they unleashed on the border. None. And for the hell now they've unleashed in New York City, throughout the country, in every city, every major state. And look at this clown Gavin Newsom. He's got about a barrel's worth of oil in his hair. He destroyed Ronald Reagan's California. They're going to lose up to 5 congressional seats, meaning 4 million people have already left California, in addition to the million that left before that. That's 5 million people. Even considering that the census counts immigrants and illegal immigrants as persons for the purpose of of the census. So even with the flood of illegal immigrants coming into California, they're still losing 4 million people who can't get out of there fast enough. They have supermajorities in their assembly as well as their state senate. They're passing law after law, one tyrannical, totalitarian law after another, the destruction of the family, parental rights, the destruction of the ability of doctors to give their most sound advice. In other words, everybody's to work for the party, whether they want to work for the party or not. And either do what the party says, or the iron fist of the California police state will come very hard down on their heads. This is what Nancy Pelosi knows. This is what Kamala Harris knows. This is what they want to impose on the entirety of the United States. You look at Florida, that's a free state. You look at California, that's a totalitarian state. People speak with their feet. They're pouring out of California as fast as they can, the once great Ronald Reagan California. And they're pouring into states like Tennessee, Texas, but especially Florida as fast as they can. And yet the Democrats are telling you that their policies are working. Well, from their perspective, they are. They're destroying our country. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let me ask you a question. You know full well the Biden regime is completely untrustworthy, that they undermine our allies, and they give billions to our enemies, like Iran. It's unclear from these news reports exactly what's going on. A lot of this is being done in secret, which is very problematic to me when we don't have certain congressional committees involved. But it seems like, from what I can determine by reading what's in these articles and between the lines, that the Biden administration is working with the Israeli government and the Saudi Arabian prince to have some kind of normalization deal in which the Saudis would recognize Israel diplomatically. Now, that would be a game changer. There's no question about it. And the truth is, had there been a second Trump administration on the heels of the first, this would have happened already under the Abraham Accords, without a whole bunch of concessions to the Palestinian terrorists and even to the Saudis. But the Saudis have said over the last several months, if not the last several years, that they're very interested in pursuing nuclear power, even though they have more oil than one can imagine. And the Saudi prince told Bret Baier that if the Iranians develop nuclear weapons, then they will too. They will have no choice. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I don't have all the facts. I just know what's out there in the media. And the fact I don't have all the facts, and you don't have all the facts, and Congress doesn't have all the facts, demonstrates that Joe Biden has no interest in being transparent about what he's doing. You know, we have a treaty clause. We have all these other obligations to ensure Congress is involved and to ensure that the public knows what's going on. It's not left to one man or a group of men who take it upon themselves to cut international deals. It's a clear violation of the Constitution, which Democrats do, you know, as often as they breathe. But I'm thinking to myself, isn't that the reason? Isn't that a motivation for taking out Iran's nuclear system, Mr. Producer? There you have Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia wants to pursue nukes, there's nothing that can stop them. They've talked about making deals with the communist Chinese. They've talked about making deals with the fascistic Vladimir Putin. They've talked about making deals with France. And, of course, they've talked about maybe a deal with us. So then we'd have Saudi Arabia with a potential for nukes and Iran with a potential for nukes. And mostly because the Biden administration will not support Israel, and for that matter, moderate Arab states who are trying to figure out ways to take out Iran's nuclear program. Now, just a few days ago, maybe it was last week, the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran kicked out the UN observers because the UN observers were observing something very bad. That Iran is so close now to having a nuclear weapon. A breakout, they call it. We won't know exactly when until they make it abundantly clear that they have it. They'll now have $6 billion from the Biden administration to assist them. And by the way, they have tens of billions more because the sanctions have effectively been lifted in violation of the so-called deal. Because Biden and his comrades are allowing the Iranians to sell oil on the open market to Europe, to Russia, to China, and everybody else. I'm amazed here. I look at these cuts, Mr. Producer, we have about the Morning Schmo show and these other shows on MSLSD and CNN. They don't even discuss these issues. All they discuss is Trump. They don't even discuss these issues. The Morning Schmo. What is this other idiot's name? Stephanie Rule or something? MSLSD on CNN. They don't even touch these issues. These are issues of life and death. Trump. So why is it that we don't know much about what's going on? We knew a lot during the course of the Camp David Accords. When Menachem Begin and Sadat were talking, Jimmy Carter, of all people, was trying to facilitate the discussions. In my view, that was a great success. Menachem Begin, a great prime minister. I don't think we could call him a wimp, do you? And Sadat lost his life over it. He was assassinated. I'm not saying there couldn't be a good deal found here. I'm saying this. We just heard yesterday on Brett Baer's program on Fox, the Saudi prince say, if Iran gets nukes, we have no choice but to develop nukes too. So why are we allowing Iran to get nukes when they threaten us? And they threaten our Arab allies, and they threaten Israel. That they kidnap American citizens and shake down a weasel of a president and administration for billions. Why do we do this? Donald Trump had precisely the right response to Iran. Starve them. Destroy their economy. This was Ronald Reagan's approach to the old Soviet Union. Help cause uprisings. Not to give them tens of billions of dollars. Let them sell their oil on the open market. To support China, of all countries, as well as Russia. To negotiate with Iran. To beg Iran. Beg them. Come back to the negotiation table. And the reason for all this, and it's been written about by people smarter than I about the Middle East, is because Biden and Blinken and Sherman and the other half-wits, nitwits, and no-wits, they want to change the whole approach to the Middle East. Where our Arab ally countries and Israel are no different than all the other countries there. That it is a regional approach that we have to have. And that we can persuade the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran to participate like nice little terrorists in the region. So they're trying to remake the entire Middle East. And by remaking the entire Middle East, we may have multiple nations that have nuclear, not just power, but nuclear weapons. As I say, I don't have all the facts. Nobody does. It's impossible to get them because they're doing all this in secret. But the Biden administration has been putting the arm to the Netanyahu government now since Biden became, or the occupant of the Oval Office. They're still pushing a two-state solution, which would be a final solution for Israel. We've all figured that out. Just look at the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip that really belonged to Egypt, that was captured by the Israelis when Egypt attacked Israel, among others. And now it's a terrorist zone where even Palestinians who live there are trying to get the hell out of there. But they have 150 missiles aimed at the cities in Israel, paid for, developed, and delivered by the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran. So everything that should be done by the Biden administration, the opposite is done. You can look at it at domestic policy. Same thing. They do exactly the opposite of what they should be doing. But we don't really have any insight into this. You know, I know people who tell us, oh, we can't do this. For God's sakes. Read what this guy has to say. Look at this. These people have signed a letter. Okay, it might be persuasive to some. Or others who say, we have no choice. We have no choice if there's going to be peace, you know, brokered by the United States with Israel and the Saudi Arabians. This is the way it has to be done. Lindsey Graham's in the middle of this thing. That makes me very nervous. Look, Lindsey can call anytime he wants and tell us what he thinks. Lindsey Graham, and then I read that Axios, a left-wing site, because Lindsey likes to talk to all these people, that he's pressing Trump to go along with the Biden plan. Well, what's the Biden plan? We don't even know what the Biden plan exactly is. But we, the people, we're the last ones to know. And where's Congress? Where are these committee chairmen? Nowhere. Where are the media? Other than a little leak here and there, and Lindsey Graham says that. What exactly is going on? They won't tell us. Seems to me we ought to know. Maybe in the end we'll agree with them. Doubt it. Anthony Blinken on the prisoner deal with Iran. Cut 12, Mr. Producer. Cut 12. Go.
If it's not being spent for humanitarian reasons, it's not being spent for food, medicine, other things, it'll get shut down.
But, Mr. Secretary, I mean, you know how money works. If I give you $5 that you can spend on humanitarian aid, that frees up another $5 to spend on, I don't know, drones, missiles, weapons that you might send to your friend Russia to fight in Ukraine.
Again, even allowing for that, these monies, these proceeds from Iran's oil sales, they've always been entitled to use.
All right, so now he's making an argument. We withheld that money from Iran because Iran was threatening a war with the United States, among others. And it funded all these terrorist attacks against American soldiers, many of whom are maimed horribly for the rest of their lives, of course. And it slaughtered many American soldiers. And to have this puke, this phony Secretary of State, who in part, with the puke who's in the Oval Office, are responsible for the death of 13 American soldiers in the withdrawal, the surrender in Afghanistan, where hundreds of American citizens, if they're alive, are still there. And also we lost many more military personnel in this withdrawal. So we're going to rely on this guy to tell us that somehow, some way, they're going to control how the Iranians use the money. How are they going to do that, America? The Iranians going to use American Express and share one of their invoices with the United States government? How the hell are they going to do that? They're not going to do it. These people lie. They lie. Our hostages are real hostages. The Iranians that we captured were spies. They were saboteurs. And Iran still intends to assassinate, if it can, Mike Pompeo, among other Americans. But don't worry, this is for humanitarian causes. Humanitarian causes? They're butchering their own people. They're raping their own girls. They're slaughtering their own population. What do you mean humanitarian causes, you idiot? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
It's amazing to me. The only reason the Biden regime and the lawless ideologues that populate that regime get away with what they get away with is because we have a corrupt media in this country. We do not have a single independent Democrat who has any concern about what's happening to this country. In fact, they all celebrate it and applaud it. Checks and balances have been destroyed. Separation of powers are being destroyed. They talk about Donald Trump in documents. Put him away the rest of his life. You have Joe Biden selling out the country left and right. To the communist Chinese, to the Iranians, selling out our country, selling them out to the Saudis. Here you have a man who's violating immigration law on the border. Department of Justice could care less. The blood, the torture, the rape, the inhumanity that's taking place, they take no responsibility for it whatsoever. Perfectly fine. Who cares? Now, New York City complains in New York, so all of a sudden the Washington Post and the New York Times, now they comment on it. But not regularly, not brutally. I want to remind you of something else. The leadership of the Wall Street Journal editorial page in the 1990s, over and over and over again, they pressed for open borders. Robert Bartley, who I knew well, Paul Gigot, who now runs that page, although he would deny that he had any role in it, but he did, a major role. Because they were the mouthpieces for the corporatists, big business. I mean, after all, who's going to pick our salad and our lettuce, make our salad and pick our lettuce? Oh, I don't know, these 6 or 7 million illegal immigrants? Obviously, they're very, very well skilled, Mr. Producer, in picking lettuce and making salads. Did you know that? I mean, after all, we Americans are so pathetic. We can't do that ourselves. Well, we have. No, you don't understand. We won't do that anymore. So we have to let in 6 or 7 million illegal aliens for people who want to eat lettuce? Are you kidding me? So the Wall Street Journal editorial board supported a short amendment to the Constitution. 5 words. I remember it like it was yesterday. There shall be open borders. Go ahead, do an internet search. They'll never admit it. I thought they were nuts back then, as in many ways they're nuts today. So there are open borders. What do you think, boys? Are you going to write an editorial and say you were wrong? They used to call me a restrictionist. A restrictionist, my God. Yeah, I'm a restrictionist. It's called law and order, you morons. Oh, he's a restrictionist. Oh, my God, he's an immigration restrictionist. And I remember duking it out with these guys. I used to write then for the National Review before it went absolutely nuts over Trump. And I'd say, yes, so what? Immigration laws are restrictive in many ways and not in other ways. It's called law and order. So here we have not a constitutional amendment, but their wish came true. There shall be open borders without any statutory authority, indeed in contradiction of statutory authority. Just like you have the governor of Pennsylvania with an edict now says, by the way, anybody who goes to the DMV and so forth, you will be automatically registered to vote.
Mark Levin, the champion of liberty and true conservatism. Call Mark now, 877-381-3811.
All right, America. All right, let's take some calls. Julie Prince from one of our favorite spots, Mr. Producer. Ventnor, New Jersey. Julie Prince, go right ahead, please.
Hey, honey, surprise, surprise. Happy birthday. I want all 14 million plus to know that it is your birthday today. And so this is the first time I've ever called into your program. Ever,
my beautiful wife.
Right?
Her real name is not Julie Prince, by the way.
Yeah. No, my real name on my license is My Julie, isn't it? I thought so.
Yes.
There you go. So last year, for your 65th, I had 10 days of surprises. And everybody, all your listeners should know that you are really hard to keep a secret from. And every day you'd say, okay, you can tell me the secret, which of course I didn't, because then it would ruin the secret. So this year, since you're 66, I had to think of something else to do. So here I am. Happy birthday, my love.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I hope you have 166 more. And the fact that your book release, I think, isn't this your first book release around your birthday? You've never had one this time of year, right?
I think that's right.
So we're going to celebrate this weekend, because I always have to give it a plug, right? So Saturday at Bookends in Ridgewood and Sunday at Tyson's Corner in Virginia. Thousands of people are going to come out to, I hope, sing happy birthday to you as they wait online.
Oh, my God. Well, my beautiful wife, Julie, and her name is not Julie Prince. This is a joke among us because Julie Prince is the wife of Mark Levin, who's a director in Hollywood. And, of course, Wikipedia refuses to fix it because they're a bunch of reprobates. But that said, Julie Levin, my wife is in New Jersey ahead of me. I'll be coming up to New Jersey tomorrow, going to Bookends and so forth, which we love, in Ridgewood, New Jersey. She's always with me when we do these signings. But here's the thing, dear. I'm alone tonight. So, you know what I'm going to do?
No, you're not. I'm
going to
buy
some.
Out and getting.
I'm buying some cake for myself. Yes.
See how predictable I knew you were going to say that. And I'm going to assure the world that you are not going to do that, because we'll do it this weekend.
You know what drives my wife nuts, America? She tries to get me on these diets. She wants me to lose weight. This woman wants me to live. It's the craziest thing. And then people come up to her at these events and say, you need to take care of him and make sure he lives. And she goes, well, who do you think is the one trying to push the health aspect of this relationship?
Exactly. As I put on my running shoes and go off for a long run myself, right?
Yes. Well, all
right, honey. I'm going to let you go.
Now.
Surprise,
surprise.
I'm so blessed
to have this fantastic family. I'm so blessed to have a fantastic wife like this. I just am. I'm deeply blessed. And you know all that goes into writing a book, honey, and how much I have to focus on that, and really takes a lot of time away from you and the family. So it is a real team effort here. And I want to thank you very, very much. Thank you for calling in, Julie Prince from Ventnor.
You're very welcome.
All right, love you, sweetie.
To you
Take
and
care.
To all your listeners. Take care.
Thank you. That's sweet. Oh, yeah. We celebrated my birthday last weekend, just so you know. What the hell? No, we already did that. I already had cake and everything. Just an excuse. I love cake. Some people, they love candy a lot. I like candy. I don't discriminate against candy. But I much prefer cake. Chocolate cake, birthday cake, or apple pie, or pecan pie. Those are my four favorite, Mr. Producer. I have to confess. All right, let's take some other callers here. Let's see here. Let us go to Carol, Bergen County, New Jersey. Well, that's where Ridgewood is. How are you, Carol?
Hi, I'm good, Mark. I'm calling from my underground nondescript bunker.
I don't blame you.
I wanted to add some info about the one governor who said, when people register for their license or get a license, they'll be registered to vote automatically.
Shapiro.
But before I get to that, I have a great idea for the Republicans.
Yeah.
John Fetterman said he'd wear a suit if they sign the spending bill.
Mm-hmm.
They should say, okay, John, show up in your suit and read us the bill.
Yeah, right. They'll be there for 5 years.
The Democrats read. Yeah, they should have everyone read the bill.
May I suggest my idea you might like even better? I think that John Fetterman should put a bag over his head. Now, that is a dress code change that I would support. How about you?
Well,
all right, Carol, what do you got there? We're running out of time.
Okay, sorry. So Kathy Hochul also said when people get a license, they're going to automatically be registered to vote. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden said 500 Venezuelans will be qualified to fast track for the
500,000. Correct.
Right. So there's like 180,000 Venezuelans or somewhere in New York. So and I think New York has the law that if you have a green card, you can get a license. New Jersey does. So they'll get licenses when they get work, and then they'll
get licenses and they'll vote. Because a lot of towns, and this is in the book too, believe it or not, a lot of towns in some states now are handing out licenses to illegal aliens for the reason you say, they need to be able to get to work and vote. I mean, get to work and work. They need to be able to get cars and so forth and so on. And obviously, we know what these people are up to on the left. They're going to destroy completely the voting system. Look, we're losing our republic. Most of the laws that are made in this country are not made by the people we vote for. They're made by a bureaucracy that advances the Democrat Party agenda. That's why if the government shuts down, it's shutting down because the Democrats are not going to take one damn penny out of their fourth branch of government. They're not going to cut one employee. That is their strength. When they don't win elections, those are the people who run the country effectively. And so you're seeing more and more totalitarianism, more and more police state iron fist. That's why when I see Republicans who just blow off what's happening to Trump, he deserves it. I'm like, maybe he shouldn't have done this. They don't get it. These are dangerous Republicans who talk like that. Carol, don't hang up. We're going to send you a signed copy of The Democrat Party Hates America. Please hold on. Logan, a trucker in Tennessee, the volunteer state on the Mark Levin app. Logan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I don't know, 66. I don't even want to count them anymore, to be honest with you. I just give me my damn birthday cake. That's all I want.
I'm calling real quick. I'm actually millennial, so don't hold that against all of us out there. I'm a trucker, of course, and I actually found your show about a year and a half ago. I never followed politics till then.
Did it scare you?
And so I guess I'm cutting my teeth on your show. Oh, yes, by far, I'm learning so much every day.
Well, thank you.
So that's great. I wanted to bounce a theory on
whatever you do, don't show reverence for what we do here. Apparently, some hosts don't like that. You can't do that. Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So the theory is that I'm sort of thinking about how they're going to replace Biden without trying to lose any votes, but keep the Democrat Party intact.
Logan, let me tell you a little secret because you're being misled by a lot of people on TV and radio. Joe Biden will not be replaced unless Joe Biden wants to be replaced. It's getting way too late in the electoral process under the DNC rules. Nobody is stepping up to replace him. Even the little dabble-do-ya out of California does a lot of dabble-do-ya. He's not going to take him on. There's nobody stepping up to take him on. I mean, there's Robert Kennedy Jr., and they won't even give the man Secret Service protection. So unless Joe Biden says, you know what, I'm not going to run, he's their nominee. Telling you the truth. They, whoever they are not going to replace him. Yellow. You there, Logan?
Yes, sir.
Now, you drive an 18-wheeler or no?
Yes, sir.
I guess you put diesel fuel in that vehicle, right?
Yes, sir, I do. And I haul fuel and deliver it to gas stations.
Okay, well, that'll end soon. We can't have that, of course. So my question to you is, the price of diesel fuel today versus, say, 3 years ago, very, very significant increase, right?
Huge increase. I would typically spend roughly, of course, I just drive during the day. I'm just a day trucker. Typically, I'd spend probably $250 a day, and now I'm upwards of $400 to $500 a day for the increase in just 2 years.
All of it is intentional. It's absolutely unnecessary. And, of course, you can't eat those costs. You go broke. And so those costs, either by you or whoever owns the vehicle, are being passed on to the consumer in the bottom line, right?
Yes, sir.
So he drives up the price of fuel. They're creating shortages of fuel. And I remember Obama said, oh, you can open a coal company, but we're going to put you out of business, and we're going to drive up the cost of electricity. Remember when Obama said he's going to drive up the cost of electricity? So one day we'll all be relying on electricity, which won't be there. And if it ever shows up in between brownouts and blackouts, you'll be paying so much for it. And so then they're going to decide, well, we have a way to handle this. We're going to, we're going to just have to parcel it out. And maybe you shouldn't live in that big single-family home. And maybe you shouldn't have 2 cars per family. Or maybe you shouldn't have a vehicle that's big, that has that many cylinders in it. Or maybe you should live near public transportation. Or maybe, for the good of the people, for the good of the environment. And they will do these things as they did during the pandemic. All of this is being done to limit a diverse economy, to shovel us and push us into a completely narrowing neck of an economic system where there's shortages, where there has to be redistribution, where there has to be inconveniences, and so forth and so on. And that's where we're headed. Logan, don't hang up. I want to send you a signed copy of The Democrat Party Hates America. Now, America, I can't send everybody a signed copy. So if you want your copy of this book, it is available in every single retail outlet that sells books, including warehouse outlets like Costco and Walmart, Target, and so forth and so on. It is available on Amazon, as it has been for 2 months. It is available at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, Sam's Club, BJ's. I know I'm leaving people out, and I apologize. But everywhere you look, it's there, and it's all discounted. Grab your copy now. I can't sign them all, but it's very worthwhile. And please share the information with anybody you can. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
By the way, 2 absolutely stellar killer shows this weekend. Saturday, Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Please set your DVR if you're not sure you're going to be able to watch it. I know there's a lot going on during the weekend. And on Sundays, Life, Liberty, and Levin, same place, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can set your DVR on that, too. On Saturday's show, we have the great Senator Ted Cruz and the great Congressman Byron Donalds. And we get into very, very deep issues with respect to the Republican Party, and neither of them hold back. Neither of them. Sunday's show is Pete Hegseth and me one-on-one. Pete Hegseth travels to Virginia, comes into my studio. You're going to love that show, too. So really a fantastic weekend of Life, Liberty, and Levin. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I know there's a lot of things going on. I hope you can watch this live. I do these shows for you. I'll stop doing them if you don't want to watch them. Trust me. But if you can't watch live, you can always DVR it, set your recording. And that's what we do sometimes with other shows. So I would encourage you to do that if you would. I'll be traveling to New Jersey tomorrow. Be doing the radio show, of course. And getting all ready for the book signing at the Bookends, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Fantastic independent bookstore. Rain or shine, they have plenty of room in there for everybody to make sure they don't get wet if it is raining. I want to encourage you to check it out. We'll start at 9:30. I decided to move it up a half hour just so we can make sure everybody gets in. Ivan in Florida. Ivan, we got 30 seconds, brother. Go right ahead.
I can't get in 30 seconds, but congratulations, my Jewish brother and friend. I love you to death, Mark. You nailed it again. Hey, listen, if this country was as bad as Democrats think it is, why don't they just leave and do like the millions of illegals that
I wish they would.
Are willing to die to get into this country? They want to leave there living hell and get into our country.
Yeah,
but
that's
Democrats,
because they want to milk this
country
country for everything it's worth. That's why. Ivan, call tomorrow. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, truckers, the freedom fighters in Ukraine and Taiwan, and all of you folks, all of you patriots. I have an idea. Head over to Amazon.com right now and grab your book. And I will see you tomorrow. God bless.